Welcome once again to Meteorology Lab. Not much weather going on out there. Very typical June conditions here as we head into summer. Let's take a look at the surface map. This is about a couple of hours old, but this captures some of the summertime heat up there in Quebec and Ontario. They've been getting some very hot temperatures up there. We've seen... Let me just pan up here so you can get a look at this. Yeah, see here, 95 up in the St. Lawrence Gulf, 97, and I thought I saw a 99 in here. Yeah, there it is right there. That's some very impressive heat. Caribou, Maine, last time I checked, they were 94, and that's creeping up within a couple degrees of the all-time high, 96 degrees. Set in 1977, and they're usually 72 this time of year. And then on the other hand, some very cool weather in the Carolinas. We've got 70s there today. Florence, North Carolina, they were below 70 degrees for 43 hours a couple days ago, and that's a record that they had not seen since 1997. So looking at the weather systems themselves, we've got high pressure moving into the northwestern U.S., and that's pushing the front out into Minnesota and eastern Nebraska, and cooler air coming back in behind that. Some of the cold air spreading all the way down to the Oklahoma Panhandle, obviously with it being over 90 degrees. It's not much of a cool down, but you go a little bit further north and you get into the 70s and even a few 60s. Still got a frontal system there in the Four Corners area. There it is right there with cold front hanging on through northwestern Arizona. And that's given us some northerly winds in southern Nevada. San Joaquin Valley, though, still very warm. So not much cold air filtering down into that area. The dry line is active in West Texas. Not a whole lot of definition on that, but we do see a 37-degree dew point there at Midland, contrasting with 71 in Junction. And this entire area is underneath a subtropical ridge. That's keeping things kind of shut down and encouraging the production of warm air, subsidence, and adiabatic warming. We do have moisture spreading up through the eastern plains there, 60s all the way up to Minnesota and Ontario. And looks like the moisture axis is somewhere right in this area here. If we outline the 70-degree isodrosotherm, that's going to come out to about something like that right there. And you can see the effect of the drier air in East Texas. Only 63 dew points in that region, and contrast that with the 70s out there around San Antonio and the Hill Country. There's conditions across the country this evening. What really jumps out at you is the wildfires there in Arizona. We've got about 115,000 acres burning, and there's been about 1,500 evacuations, so it is definitely having an impact, and even seeing some wildfires there in northern Arizona. If we run that back, you can kind of trace out where the plume is originating from. Up to the north, this isn't wildfires, that's cirrus. That's back out behind that front, and bear in mind, the front is running something like that right there. Actually, it goes a little further south. So there you go. This is all the cooler air mass to the north, and you can see the cooler conditions aloft, helping to produce some towering cumulus out on the mountains. Not quite as much as we had yesterday, though. There's the northwestern U.S., and we can see the troughing by following the cloud forms. So it puts the troughing there over Idaho and Montana. You can see with the very strong flow over this area and the instability, pretty good storms going on in the mountains of western Wyoming. And we've had some reports of severe weather in that area. Definitely getting the heat up there in the northeastern U.S. And as we go south, we start picking up some of the remains of that system that's been hanging around North Carolina. By looking at the counterclockwise circulation, we find the upper level low somewhere over West Virginia. And anywhere around that low, we're getting convective development and numerous showers and thunderstorms. And down in the southeastern U.S., things definitely improving in the Carolinas. Gotten rid of that overcast and given way to scattered to broken conditions. That upper level system, there it is up to the north, and we're bringing in slightly drier air into the southeastern U.S. And as we go to the west, we get underneath that subtropical ridge, kind of in this area right there, and you can see that not very many of the convective cells develop into thunderstorms. One brief cell there near Shreveport, another around the Lufkin area, and that's about it. Even the sea breeze has not been active. But as we mentioned, the dry line is in place. We found that from southwestern Kansas down the Caprock, and with that, some thunderstorms going up. I don't think there's a whole lot of shear, so we're not seeing much in the way of severe weather, but the cells are there. There's one complex there near Big Spring and another south of Abilene. And one more piece of satellite imagery we need to cover is off the coast of Africa. Big plume of dust coming off the coast there, moving east to west and covering the Cape Verde Islands. Now, this is not all that unusual. This is a common occurrence during the summer. I'll run this back and you can see where this came from. There's the 17th, there's the 16th, and there's the 15th. And we kind of lost it there. That was probably dust being raised, I would imagine, somewhere out here. But this dust is on the move, and we're going to expect it to be around here, around the 21st or so, 22nd, somewhere in there. And then by the 25th, around midweek, that should be in the Gulf. The media does seem to be a little bit obsessed with this dust, but I'm not expecting much in the way of weather problems. It's probably going to contribute to some hazy conditions in the southeastern U.S. late next week, possibly into Texas as we start tapping that southeasterly flow later in the week. But I don't think we're going to be seeing anything like a dust storm or anything biblical, nothing like that. Okay, looking at our forecast over the weekend, there's the front. We kind of found that on the surface analysis right in that area, and high pressure, looks like the ridge is kind of right there from New York City, Lake Huron, and out into the Atlantic. And up to the northwestern U.S., there's that big northwestern high moving into that region. So for tomorrow evening, the frontal system is kind of losing definition. We kind of vaguely see it in there, and that probably connects back up into Colorado like that. Also, dry line, that's going to be located about like that right there. So our triple point will be in the Lubbock to Snyder area, maybe a few cells along the dry line down to the south, and then the rest of it is all going to be upslope stuff from Amarillo all the way up towards Pueblo and Colorado Springs. So depending on how much shear there is, there could be some potential in that. Let's get an idea of the shear over southeastern Colorado. There's our forecast skew-t there. Looks like some marginal severe potential. You do see in the storm relative flow panel, we're getting about 25 knots of inflow into these cells. The mid-level flow is pretty weak, but as you get aloft, we do pick up about 40 knots of anvil relative shear. So that's basically enough to support some strong thunderstorms. Not much capping there in southeastern Colorado. Probably numerous cells, but look at that steep lapse rate there. That's going to be some good cape there. 2,000 being indicated on that table. And let's go down to the Amarillo area. We need to put this back before convection. 18Z. Let's look at the Amarillo area. And we can see that, yeah, there is some capping there Shear definitely is on the weak side, and all the parameters are marginal down there in West Texas. That's some good moisture, though. 65 dew points and tapering very weakly with height to give us a layer of about 1 to 1.5 kilometers deep of moisture. And with all that, the capes are up there. And let's go a little bit further down the dry line. I think that point that I selected earlier, that was probably right on the front or right behind it, but now we are going to go directly along the dry line. And there it is, kind of a weak cap. Kinematics look marginal. Good moisture. That's some pretty stout moisture. And capes around 2,500. So we could squeak out a little bit of severe weather out of that. Maybe some strong winds and heavy rain. Okay, going forward into the weekend, let's see how things are looking. That front loses definition, and I suspect it's still in there somewhere. Looks like a new frontal system trying to come together right in that area. It's kind of like a weak Alberta clipper. That's enough to support these cells out ahead of it, and looks like maybe another push of cold air coming into the Pacific Northwest. Not much relief in the northeastern U.S. The cold air is well up to the north, and so that's going to put this whole area under warm conditions. But it looks like some more moisture starting to make it north. Maybe some clouds and moisture helping out. Then for Sunday, yeah, things look kind of active up there in the Great Lakes. Storm system moving across Ontario there. Dry line probably about like that. I don't know if we have ridging. Yeah, maybe a little bit more. But it looks like we're getting maybe under sort of a northwest flow situation. See that little line of overnight cells moving from northern Kansas into Arkansas for Monday morning. Then going forward, looks like some high pressure building into the northern plains and driving this front down into Oklahoma for Monday evening. So obviously this time of year we're going to get storms along something like that, and actually a pretty good cluster Monday night. And this time of year I expect to see redevelopment further south. The outflow boundaries and fronts tend to creep together southward, and that puts it in North Texas for Tuesday. Some more cold air. Yeah, look at that 552 decameter air mass up there in Minnesota, so things are going to be cooling down up in that region. And let's see, Texas getting wet for Tuesday night and Wednesday. It then looks like kind of a cool high building in. The Gulf is not open, and so that drives the moisture westward, and we get activity down there in Mexico. Next big change after next week. Wow, looks like another high building into the north central U.S. Gulf opens up for the weekend, but it looks like maybe something's not coming together. Maybe lack of moisture or a subtropical high in place. And that's about all I see in the long term there. Okay, well, we are running late, so I need to get this show wrapped up. Hope you all have a great evening. We will see you again tomorrow. Take care and have a good one. Bye-bye.